The sound of laughter used to be the music of my life. It was the soundtrack to Rohan's silly jokes, to Annika's childhood glee, to the family we once were. After he was gone, the silence that replaced it was a physical presence in our home, a heavy, breathing thing that lived in the corners of every room. So, when I heard it again, real, unforced, youthful laughter spilling from the living room, it felt like a miracle. It was a sound I had ached for, a sound I thought was lost to us forever. I was in my kitchen, my sanctuary. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air like tiny fairies. My hands, now lined with the years but still steady, were dusted with fine white flour. I was making aloo parathas, the way my mother taught me, the way Annika had always loved. I watched each paratha puff up, a perfect golden brown sphere, before flipping it with practiced ease. This I knew how to do. This was a language I understood. I arranged them in a neat stack on my best ceramic plate, a wedding gift from a lifetime ago. This was my offering, my way of saying, I am here. I see your joy, and I want to be a part of it. My heart, that fragile, hopeful muscle, swelled with a primal, maternal pride. This was my daughter's world, vibrant and alive, back within the walls of our home. I walked slowly towards the living room, the plate warm in my hands. The laughter grew louder, a cascade of bright, unfamiliar notes. I paused at the doorway, hidden in the shadows of the hall. Annika was at the center of it all, perched on the edge of the sofa like a queen on her throne. She was surrounded by 3 other girls, all of them sleek and polished, their clothes speaking a language of casual expense I could never afford. They were hanging on her every word. And then I told the professor that his entire framework was outdated, Annika was saying, a confident smirk playing on her lips. He was practically speechless. I took a step into the room. The floorboard, which had creaked in the same spot for 15 years, announced my presence. 4 pairs of eyes turned to me. Annika's gaze was the only one that mattered. For a single, heart-stopping second, I saw her, my Annika, the little girl who used to run to me with scraped knees. The recognition was there, bright and clear, and then it was gone. Her eyes flickered from my face to the plate of parathas in my hands. It wasn't a glance of appreciation or welcome. It was a swift, cold assessment, a dismissal. Her gaze returned to mine, and she gave a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of her head. It was a silent command, sharp and unequivocal. My smile, which had felt so natural moments before, froze and then died on my lips. Annika turned back to her friends seamlessly, her voice cutting through my unspoken greeting, through my hope, through my very being. As I was saying, she continued, her voice a little louder now, a deliberate barrier. The internship in Milan is basically confirmed. I stood there, a ghost in the doorway of her life, holding a plate of warm bread that was rapidly cooling. The laughter resumed, but now it sounded different. It wasn't music anymore. It was a wall, high and impenetrable, and I was firmly on the outside. The silence after Rohan's passing had a texture. It was thick and granular, like walking through fog made of sand. It got into everything. He didn't just die. He was ripped from the fabric of our lives, leaving a jagged, unraveling hole. Annika was 12. She transformed overnight from a bubbly, effervescent child into a quiet, watchful creature, her eyes holding a sadness too deep and too old for her small face. Overnight, I had to perform an act of brutal alchemy. I had to transmute my grief, my terror, my utter sense of loss into strength. The skin of Priya, the wife, the partner, the woman who leaned on someone, had to be shed. It was excruciating, like tearing off a part of my own body. What grew in its place was a tougher, more resilient hide. Priya, the sole anchor, the provider, the wall against the world. Arav Textiles. The name was his. For me, in those first few years, it was a battlefield. I remember my first board meeting sitting in his old leather chair. It still held the faint, haunting scent of his sandalwood cologne. I felt like a child playing dress-up. Priya, perhaps we should bring in an interim CEO, one of them had suggested, his voice oozing false concern. The day-to-day pressures, it's no place for a woman in mourning. His words weren't just sexist. They were a threat to everything Rohan had built. But I looked him dead in the eye, my voice surprisingly steady. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Malhotra, but my husband trained me well. I am the CEO. The agenda, please. I learned. God, how I learned. I spent nights hunched over ledgers. I learned to fire people. I learned to fight. I came home with the weight of 100 livelihoods on my shoulders, only to have to shift gears completely. I had to be the mother who helped with a science project, who braided hair, who soothed nightmares, all while my own monsters of fear and loneliness clawed at the edges of my consciousness. I became a master of duality, a performer in a relentless one-woman show. The party incident was not an anomaly. In the weeks that followed, I felt like I was living with a stranger who wore my daughter's face. My very presence seemed to be a constant source of irritation to her. The true, chilling nature of this new dynamic was revealed the night of the dean's annual dinner. Annika was desperate to make the right impression. I watched her from her bedroom doorway, my heart a tangled knot of awe and a strange, cold foreboding. She looked beautiful, stunning in fact, but the beauty was sharp, brittle. It was armor. Beta, I said softly, holding up two of my best saris. Which one do you think? I want to look nice for your friend's parents. I want to represent you well. She barely glanced at me. Wear whatever, Mom, it really doesn't matter. It matters to me, I insisted. These are important people. I don't want to let you down. She put down her hairbrush with a sharp, definitive click. The sound was like a gunshot in the tense room. She turned to me slowly, and her face was not that of my daughter. It was the face of a strained, impatient stranger. Just be quiet, okay? Her voice was low, but each word was meticulously chosen, a scalpel designed to inflict the most precise damage. Don't try so hard. It's obvious. Don't tell your long, emotional stories about Dad or about the early struggles of the company. Nobody cares. Don't offer opinions on things you don't understand. Don't interfere. Just be in the background. Smile, nod, but for God's sake, don't speak. Be in the background. The words didn't just hurt. They redefined my entire existence. They erased the 16 years of single-handed parenting. They negated the nights spent rocking a sick child, the battles fought in boardrooms, the countless sacrifices. I had spent a lifetime building a home for her, only to be told I was now merely part of the scenery. The silence she demanded of me was not a passive state. It was an active, oppressive force. It became the new architecture of our home. Our dinners, once a sacred time of shared confidences, became a tense, silent performance. We were two actors who had forgotten their lines. The pressure mounted not as a single crushing weight, but as a series of small, precise, calculated cuts. She began a subtle, relentless campaign of correction, a systematic dismantling of my confidence. My hard-earned life, my struggles, my very identity were being reduced to a series of grammatical errors and social faux pas. The final crushing blow came on a rainy Thursday evening. I had made a cup of her favorite ginger cardamom tea. I was walking down the staircase when I heard her voice from the living room. She was on a video call. Yeah, it's so hard to explain things to her, she was saying. I stopped, hidden by the curve of the staircase, my body going cold. She just doesn't get this world. The networking, the social capital. She's stuck in this little bubble. I think she's just lonely. She has no identity beyond being my mom. It's honestly a little pathetic and so embarrassing. I stood there, paralyzed, pathetic, embarrassing, lonely. Each word was a nail, hammered with brutal efficiency into the coffin of the person I thought I was. The fortress I had built for her had become my own personal prison. That night, sleep was a distant, unreachable shore. Her words were a toxic, relentless chorus in my mind. I felt hollowed out, erased. I wandered through the dark, silent house, a ghost in my own life. My feet led me to my home office. This room was different. It was a room of facts, of numbers. It bore the scars and triumphs of my survival. My eyes fell upon it, the old, steel-gray metal box at the bottom of the bookshelf. Rohan's memory box. I knelt. The lock was stiff with disuse, but it gave way with a quiet click. Inside, the past lay preserved. And then beneath it all was a crisp white envelope. It was addressed in his bold, confident, looping script. It said, "For my Priya and my Annika, to be opened when you need me most." A sob escaped me. My hands trembled violently as I carefully broke the seal and unfolded the letter. His voice, captured in dark blue ink, seemed to fill the silent room. My dearest Priya, I see the fire in you. Never, ever let anyone make you feel that you are not enough. Your strength is not in your loudness, but in your profound compassion. But remember, my love, a dignified silence is a choice. A forced one is a prison. If the time ever comes, you must break it. You must. Teach our Anika that a person's value is never in the labels they wear, but in the integrity of their heart. I slumped to the floor, the precious letter clutched to my chest. The tears came then, great, heaving sobs that racked my entire body. They were tears of grief, tears of rage, and tears of profound, soul-shaking relief. He had seen this. From across the years, he had seen this moment coming. The man I had loved had just reached through time and handed me the key to my own freedom. A profound, unshakable calm descended upon me. This was not a war against my daughter. This was a reclamation of myself. My plan was born of a clear, cold vision for a future where I was not a victim, but an architect. I did not scream. I did not cry. I simply began to act. The first front was the legal and financial one. We need to restructure everything, I told my lawyer. I was no longer just Mum's company. I was the trustee, the director, the decision maker. It was a suit of legal armor. Next, I began the slow work of building a life for Priya, not Annika's mother, Priya. I started by calling an old friend. We met for lunch. The conversation was about ideas, not about a child. It was exhilarating. I signed up for a pottery class. The first time I sat at the wheel, my hands were tentative and clumsy. The clay was cool and slippery, but as I focused, my mind went quiet. The chorus of pathetic and embarrassing faded away. I was creating something from formlessness. It was messy, but it was mine. Most importantly, I stopped tailoring my life to Annika's schedule. I stopped being perpetually on standby. I started coming home later, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I was rediscovering the woman I was before I was only someone's mother. I was reclaiming my time, my space, and my identity. The test came sooner than I expected. Annika burst into the house, her face radiant, waving her acceptance letter. Mom, I got in! The London School of Economics. My heart swelled with genuine pride. The fees are due by the end of the month, she continued, barely pausing for breath. I'll need the living expenses transferred, and we need to book my flight, business class, and a new laptop. She continued, her list of demands filling the room. I let her talk. When she finally stopped, I spoke, my voice even and soft. That is wonderful news. The trust will cover your tuition fees directly. It's all arranged. She beamed. Perfect. So the living expenses next week then? You will need to cover those expenses yourself, I said, my gaze steady on hers. The smile vanished from her face. Myself? What are you talking about? I recommend you start looking for a part-time job, I continued. It's an important part of the experience. A job? The word was a shriek of pure outrage. I'm not going to LSE to work in a cafe. My friends' parents are giving them full allowances. This is ridiculous. I can't believe you're doing this to me. I'm not doing anything to you, I replied, my calmness a solid wall against her storm. I'm allowing you to do something for yourself. You told me I needed to grow up. You were right, I have. Now it's your turn, the color drained from her face. She stared at me, her eyes wide, and for the first time in years, she was truly seeing me. She wasn't looking at her pathetic, lonely mother. She was looking at a CEO, a survivor, a woman who had drawn a boundary as solid as a fortress wall. The silence in the room was no longer the one she had demanded. It was the silence of her shock, the deep, resonant silence of my unshakable peace. The first few months after she left were quiet, but it was a peaceful, productive stillness. Our calls were brief, transactional. Then slowly, the tone began to change. The polished stories were replaced by genuine accounts of struggle. During one call, her voice was thick with exhaustion, but also pride. Mom, I got my first paycheck today. From the library. I paid my share of the rent with it. It felt different. It felt real. I know, Beta, I said softly. It feels like your own. She was quiet for a long moment. I think I'm beginning to understand now, she said, her voice small. What you did, all of it. It must have been so hard. I never really saw it. The apology was not in the words, but in the fragile, humbled silence that followed them. I had forgiven her long ago. My love for her was no longer a desperate, clinging vine. It had become a strong, deep-rooted tree. Our relationship is being rewoven now. It is different. It is the beginning of a respectful bond between two adults. She sees me now, not just as her mother, but as a woman who built a life from the ashes of loss. The journey taught me that a mother's love is not defined by silent suffering. Its truest measure is found in the strength to speak her truth, to hold her ground, and to love her child enough to sometimes say no, even when her voice trembles. If this story of quiet strength and finding one's voice resonated with you, we would be honored to hear your thoughts in the comments below. For more real-life narratives of love, loss, and the quiet power of redemption, please subscribe to the channel.